Hello, everyone. A very good morning and welcome to AISS. And we are starting off with this blockbuster of a session, which is Microsoft's holistic approach to information protection, governance, risk management, and compliance. And this is being steered by Smita Jain, who is a cybersecurity technology specialist in Microsoft, and who will help us explore this exciting topic. So I'd like to bring Smita Jain onto the stage. Hello. Yeah. Hello,
Good
Smita.
morning.
Yes, good morning. Hello and welcome. So, in this topic of information protection, governance, risk management, and compliance, it's so much essential to look at it in a holistic manner of the entire fragmented features that are out there, especially in this day and age of work from boundaryless organizations, cloud, hybrid, and everything. So, in that, we would really love to know from you on how do we manage this and what does Microsoft offer and what is the general approach that one should be following in the face of all these compliance standards that are coming up in the world, around the world, be around across the countries, as we know that different countries are coming out with their own regulatory frameworks and laws, and then of course it is required, it is incumbent on organizations to comply to them. But how do we get one single class speak in order to manage these, and then also be sure that what is being seen is what is reflected, and the reality is reflected here, and not that something else is going on and the view we have is different. Okay, so with that, I would like to hand it over to you to take this session forward in this exciting masterclass. So I hope all the audience are listening and that they are taking notes on this very important topic. It is only going to grow in importance because just to take privacy alone, some 52 countries around the world are privacy laws in the next 1 year, including India, and a whole new cybersecurity framework is being drafted as we speak. Okay. So with this, certainly we're going to take a very serious note what measures organizations are taking in order to secure the information sets and of course, infrastructure of the over to you, Smita.
Thank you, Dr. Sriram. So, friends, I'll be talking about uh, compliance as a whole. When we are talking about compliance, it is starting from security, data, and data at the heart. So, I'm just sharing my screen. Let me know once it is visible.
Yes, Smita, it is visible.
Sure, thanks. So now we are talking about Microsoft approach to information protection, governance, and risk management. My name is Smita Jain, and I'm a technology specialist, cybersecurity with Microsoft India. So when we're talking about compliance lifecycle management, there are different aspects, starting from the duty or the obligation of the organizations when information is being created. Uh, the second one is about governing and protecting the data and finding that data that in discovery and response. and finally to monitor, detect, and respond to cyber threats. So these are the various aspects we will be talking about, and I'm going to talk one by one on this information protection and governance. I'm just taking a minute, please. So let us talk about risk management framework when we start from assessing the risk to control. And when we are talking about in form of data, the risk is in various aspects, which is from internal stakeholders as well as from the external parties. So any information asset which is created in the organization, the obligation starts from the very point where the document is created, then goes to the second part where we have to like say work on it, we have to collaborate, and then we have to keep it for some time, and the final which is part of disposition, which is a responsible disposition where you have all the evidence that the data was disposed. So when we talk about this information governance reference model, this model is very popular, and this was the first thing which has helped uh, the information governance team to address the issues which were largely around the data. When we talk about discovery, it is all starts from the except billions of records, and to identify the first thing is the right record, and then preserving it, collecting it, processing, and review and analysis. But this does not end here because you have to produce the right data and then you have to present it to the respective body. So, in all these things, how do you reduce the pain, or how do you bring the data fast so the person who is requesting for this data is satisfied? Same, like say, any information asset is having an asset value at any given point of time. So if that value is not going to remain same data life cycle, because a document, like say for example, a unpublished financial report is very critical, or say most confidential till the day it is published to the public and then becomes a general document. So that's why the value does not remain same, and you have to protect. Now when you have to protect, we are talking about confidentiality, integrity, and availability, because the people who are creating is still needing access, the people still need to collaborate, and when they are done, they need to exchange with each other, or say at least publish till the time it is published and becomes central availability. So you can retain that document, because if your organization says, or say your regulator says that the data has to be kept for certain years, you have to keep the data for that. But a general practice which is found is that when we publish this, or say the data is created, it remains there forever. That creates a stress on the IT as well as on the organization, because each bit of data you store in your organization is a liability. Because if that data goes in wrong hand, it will be a reputation issue, but at the same time, it may be a monetary loss as well. So, two functions which are at the highest, who are concerned about this, is business and IT, because business depends on entirely, or say in the digitized world, on IT, and IT depends on business to understand the value of the data, and to keep it in secure form and to give right access to right people. So with this, I'll be taking a little more closer look to the information governance framework. So if you would have heard of like say universal ERM, ISO 15489, like say universal ERM which was created by NORA. Now ICA module 2 or say ISO 16179 and DOD 5.2, which was the first framework which was created for governing the data. And that's why people still keep talking about it, because that was the first thing which brought that okay, data has to be governed in a specific mode. So the four things which we are hearing are say obligation of the organization, data or say utility of that particular asset which we are handling, protecting it, and retaining it. So all these four things are equally important. The first thing when we are talking about it is documented in form of a document where say that okay, what information are saved, what kind of protection is needed, and how long it should be retained, and who all should have access to. The second one is about the value we spoke about, and the other things we'll talk as we go. Uh, if we can put the first poll question, please. So when we are talking to people, and your answers here on this poll says that your priority, private data privacy is your utmost priority. It says that okay, a lot of focus is there on data. So thank you for the answers. Can we put the next poll as well? Hey, thank you so much for this second thing. So you already have a data strategy in place, and that's wonderful because when we are talking about data classification, it is very very important to put the data a label and a value to that. The so coming back to the slide. Now, when we are talking about data classification, you said that classification is one thing, but I want to understand how many of you have retention strategy in place. So, if we have the third question on poll, please. You can put the third poll question. Good. I'm happy to hear that most of the folks says that they have a retention policy in place. And there are few who want to understand what is the retention schedule. So let me elaborate a little about the retention schedule, and then I'll move to the name. So retention is a data of a particular information asset or say life cycle of that, after which the asset becomes eligible to dispose. So once we dispose that, the liability of the organization or say the reduce. So few questions we keep hearing from the customer, that how do I know what data do I have, or where does the data reside? How do I protect the data? What data is at risk? How can I protect data with people? How can I protect data with people working from home? And how can I protect them when people are collaborating from inside and outside? And how do we retain the data and delete the data at the right time? To further, like say, complicate the problem, there is the data which is spread across on cloud or say in hybrid environment and on various platforms. The responsibility or say business objectives are also so many circles that it is very difficult to manage them. Third thing is the data regulators who are increasingly like say having number of data regulations are increasing, and at the same time India, if you have heard, is having the personal data protection bill coming in picture. So I'm going to talk about now the next phase where I'm going to talk about a scenario where, and starting from CEO, how these different stakeholders are managing their obligations and helping business. So here in this case, Jason is the CEO, and he says that okay, I'm informed that I'm not managing the content and we are non-compliant, and we have to define a way to manage and dispose important data. So I'm starting with that scenario, and while you see these different names here, this name can be anything, but I'll be referring to them by their like responsibility. So allow me do that. And if you see here, my information governance officer says that I have to follow a 16175 ISO framework to be compliant and to be compliant to the records management requirement. Same, the CIO want to have control and say that how guide my team to administer the records properly. We will also be talking about archivist who is responsible for keeping the data for certain period, and Radu, the end user, the records manager, who says that in case of any obligation, we need to generate the records and put it to legal or say different requirements. IT admin and customers also would be the part of this. So how are we going to achieve this? And I'm just bringing this Microsoft Information Governance and Records Management as a place. So first thing is compliance manager, where we have regulated standard policy and custom. The objective or say the controls and remediations are the things which we'll be looking at. Then comes the information governance. How do we apply retention policies, retain the content, or say delete the content at the end when it is due for deletion? We'll be talking about it all M365 platforms. The next one we'll be talking about the records management. which is like say when a retention period is over, you can have event-based thing when you say that a specific date from like say creation of the data should be deleted, or say it can be based on created date of creation, or it can be based on last date modified or label applied. Now we will also be talking about auto classification of the data, understanding this data from SharePoint and different syntax, and also how you can apply the same for other platforms like say which are external but you are still responsible for compliance management. We'll also be talking about advanced e-discovery, data loss prevention. So if you see below, we are talking about information archiving flow, native data connections, Microsoft information governance, communication compliance, where you say that okay, certain people are say people from uh, account should not be talking to like say payable and others. So these are the things we will be talking about. And then the communication compliance, another aspect in the organization is when like say somebody is not using appropriate language or say abusive language. So those are also treated as a very high compliance requirement, and those should be prohibited and protected. Then advanced recovery, which will be helping you to respond to any legal and regulatory obligation. So now I'm going as an information governance team. And first, if you see this screen here, we have a Microsoft Compliance Manager, which help you to like say meet uh, your regulator or say whatever your compliance you are following. So in this space we were speaking about ISO. So this compliance manager brings two things. If you see the shared responsibility model, one is your points achieved means the person who is responsible, and the one if it is cloud, the provider's responsibility. Now I'm going to assessment. See the highlighted portion here, and we are bringing assessment here. I simply click on add assessment. I select available template. If you see 300 plus templates are already available, and you can select the one which is applicable to your organization. What we bring here is the simplicity of audit management, because whatever framework you are following, you have certain regulatory requirement, it is technical requirement, uh, also when the control was implemented and who implemented the control. In some cases you have to defer it, and some cases you have to say that okay, it will be done after certain time. All these things, if you remember, if it is done in mails, it is very difficult to find that what actions were raised in the audit, and if those are closed properly. Let me show this experience how seamless it becomes once you bring this template here. So VP information governance has given the guidance what frameworks to be followed. We have included that. And when we say assess progress, there are two things we spoke about: control. So here we are talking about access restriction and permission, which is very much needed, so the right person get access to right data. So the second one is like say enabling auditing. Here the VP governance just can assign this to IT person. Here in this case, it is IT manager who is pulled in here and the action item is assigned. The IT manager sees this in the mailbox and say that okay, an action is assigned, can go and implement the control and implement and update the content here in the console itself. Now, mind it, when we are bringing this, by default, it retains the data for 1 year, but you can put it as per your organization requirement. When we are talking about all these record types, it can be in SharePoint, Exchange Online, Microsoft Teams, Stream, Yammer, all those things. So when a compliance manager, the IT admin logs into compliance manager, he or she may just say that, okay, is it implemented? Or say it is not implemented, alternative implementation. Certain times when you are not using Microsoft control but using a third party control, you can very much put that, and that will be used as a audit evidence, because ultimately when you are having a control, you know that okay, I have mitigated the risk by an alternative method, and that's what is the objective we are going to meet here. uh, Plant can be like say certain things which are delayed and which like say you know that for business reasons cannot be implemented immediately. In some cases you may still go out and say that out of scope and we don't care about this particular parameter. What we are bringing here is that you are in full control, that you know these are the various actions taken on audit findings, and you know that when this decision was taken and even the implementation note. Now, when we are talking about records management, we are saying that when a data is created, we also want to put a file plan in place where we say that, okay, for how long it will be there in the system and when it is time to dispose it off. Now, I'm demonstrating a subject-based retention where you say that, okay, certain data item should be deleted or say retained for certain time. The sheet which I'm showing comes from your policy and I am just referring it as is. So reference ID, type of records or series, since I'm holding accounts receivable and accounting services. Active duration for this is C plus 2, creation plus 2 year, inactive for 5 years, and total retention time is 7 years. The next column is about protected, means this document has to be protected and encrypted. So it is simple a retention label which we will be creating in Compliance Manager, where you can go and like say whatever was there in the Excel, you are converting it in the digital format. So here you see that okay, we have mentioned this reference ID and everything. And mind it, here I have mentioned 7 years as a retention because the policy says that way. At the end of this retention period, this item can be marked for this will be marked for record. It means that for 7 years no one will be able to delete it. The next thing is trigger a disposition review. It means that when 7 years are completed, this will go for a review. You can also select not to get, means like say not to review and delete it. Depending on certain situation, you may even take that decision. So up to 5 disposition reviews you can add. And here I'm adding IT and archiving team too as a person to review it. The policy is ready. We have created a retention label and now we want to publish it. because the retention label also need to be applied to the document. While I have shown you the manual approach to create those uh, label policy, you can also publish and upload a Excel file based thing. So this is a sample. You can also upload a sample file which will talk about like the retention period and what is the reference ID and all those things. This will be auto populated. So if you want to see like say what our record management thing is here, if you note this, these are grouped by function, status, category. You can group by and see the records management thing in a format which you want to see. Now, if I'm referring this purchase orders, and for this purchase orders, we are going to have another kind of label where we are publishing this label and we saying that okay, it can be published to any location. It can be Exchange, SharePoint, OneDrive, Microsoft 365 groups, and so on. This retention policy can apply this retention either manually or automated. So I'm applying this to a SharePoint site. I have applied to Exchange and SharePoint site. Now, what happens when this thing goes out from the organization? What happens? So I'm also applying a auto labeling policy, because what we want to do is when an end user is handling the data, you want to apply a label, and that can be automated. If that is automated for sensitive data, it reduces the overall IT hustles, or say the end users point of view. It is very convenient. So here saying that contains sensitive information. I am using Canada financial data, and this will be based on specific words or phrases. So we have various methods when we are talking about data classification. It can be like say a sensitive information type which is available out of box. You can create regex pattern, but on top of that we also have a very good thing which is called trainable classifier. This trainable classifier is machine learning and AI enabled thing which help you to convert your data which is specific to your organization and specific format, which is like say you are training a AI model, and that can be useful for your organization. So you don't need to create regex and other patterns. So here I'm applying apply label to content that matches a trainable classifier, and I'm going for purchase orders. And when we say your compliance score now, so the IT admin can now come to data classification and apply those labels. So this trainable classifier which I was talking about, we have created a trainable classifier and we'll be using that for the purchase order. That this trainable classifier is specific for purchase orders, and that's why it is applied to a specific group. When this is applied to a specific group and the person need to like say create a new site, you can directly apply it on the site itself or say on team channel. Here I'm creating a team channel, and this would be a regulated site. Is this private, so no external data or say external people allowed, and we are just creating it. These are the members added. Now you can go ahead and publish this or say protect the content in that site itself. Now I'm going to create another classification based on the protected or say for how long it is to be protected. So the IT admin can see this attribute and the data has to be protected. They go and create a scope that where all it will be applicable. So here, when we are talking about all files, emails, groups, and sites, I'll talk about Azure Purview in a while. So we are saying that okay, we'll be configuring encryption on this, and it is like say we are not saying on a specific date or say number of after label is applied, but we are just publishing it. The specific thing which we have configured is do not forward. So the data is encrypted and it is marked. So somebody try to share it outside the organization, it is still protected. You can apply a watermark. This watermark can be for people who are handling this information. It does not help in data protection because it is data protection is a different ball to game to altogether because when people are intentionally trying to exfiltrate, they will not look at all this clue. So this is for all your good people who know that okay, this is labeled in such a way and I have to handle it responsibly. We'll talk about data protection in a while. So labeling for files and emails. We are using all the available sensitive information type as well as the trainable classifier we have created for purchase orders. Did you see here the highlighted blue one? This is display. This will display the message for the end user. So even to educate the user, it is very very important. We have defined the content as private. Now I'll be talking about Azure Purview for a while because when we are talking about unstructured data, we are covering all the things today. But we also have a very good offering where Inform Azure Purview, where the data resides on any third-party cloud or AWS S3 bucket or SQL database. All those structured data also can be labeled, and that's where Azure Purview comes and you define the data once and you can use it across for your structured and unstructured data. Now we have created the sensitivity label and we are publishing it to specific users who can use this content. You can also provide your organization or say SharePoint portal where you are keeping the policies because that will help them to understand the context of that label, and if they have any queries they can go and look at FAQs or see how to handle the content appropriately. We are not applying the label automated because we will be allowing users to consume the label and apply it. So I'm not applying it to any default groups and sites. but you have all the available option. Means like say you can apply it for automated labeling. Now I would like to spend a little minute on why this automated and manual labeling both has got its advantage and disadvantages, because when we just leave this data classification on end user, if you remember from my earlier slide, the user always says that I have a day job to do. I cannot keep looking at the things and say that okay, how to handle it. So if it is sensitive, you have to mark it, and you help me understand what kind of thing it is and how it should be classified. And if you don't want a specific to be specific sensitive information type to be marked differently, then you should define it by default. That helps a lot. So now we have created this and published this label as well. Now we have created the policy, and we have applied, means like say we have created label, we have published the label and created the policy. So let us see what happens when end user shares it with an external party. First is the document is created. Now the person is collaborating it with outside. Person has declared and classified. Let us see how it goes. Now this is one of the purchase order, and our end user is sharing this. So when the person is sharing it, the person when it is sharing outside the organization. One second, I'm just missing one slide. So here, when the person is sharing it outside, a policy is assigned. The person is assigning a label. So this end user, when it is sharing outside and sharing it with a third party, it will always request for a OTP token or say the other method you opt for. So now I'm going for, so two things we spoke so far. One is identifying sensitive information and applying sensitivity label. The second one we spoke about the retention label. When we apply sensitivity label, it is for organization or say the people in organization who are handling it. A retention label generally end users are not concerned about, and they just want to consume the data and want to be compliant. But they don't mostly think about the retention, that how long it should be. It is mostly a say left for IT and business. So when I'm talking about retention period is over and you want to dispose the content, That's what is the experience we are talking about now. So here in this case, when we are going for a disposition review, so here this data, when we have this on a particular file share. Here, when we are applying a label and we have marked it as purchase order, in this particular case, we are marking all of it in a particular site as sensitive. Now I'm talking about disposition. So what happens when the data was created and 7 years deadline is made? We have to keep a watch and see that what happens. So now this purchase orders, we have mentioned 7 years as the life. Now, very important thing which we want to understand is that where is my data? If you remember, we have this question keep coming from audience that how long the data is there, what is the data. Now, Content Explorer is one place in our portal which helps you for all the sensitive information and retention labels. So I am doing a review for purchase order. So these purchase orders here are like says available on Exchange, OneDrive, and SharePoint. And at any given point of time, a person is having access will be able to see the content. It is very, very important that it's not visible to each one or say all those people who are just crawling it. It may be at different levels, like say even in your monitoring team. So a specific permission on SharePoint is needed if you want to go and see the data. So I'm exploring it and found that this is indeed a purchase order. Now another thing which I want to understand is how this retention label is applied, and I can go and see it in Activity Explorer. I can apply a filter based on retention label and which is specific to purchase order. So two filters I've mentioned. One is retention label and the second one is purchase order. So this is how it is overall, like say labels applied, labels modified, labels removed, all those activities and where this location of the document and the person who's working on it. Now you can even go in detail and find that how this was applied. Was it a manual or say it was applied automatically? The location and other information is handy. Same thing we can do it for vendors and others, like say as per your policy. So for these vendors and suppliers, it is for 1 year retention. So you can create another one and you can just use it as is. Now when we are doing the review disposition sample, I'm talking about at the time of disposition, a person can simply apply a disposition review and say that, okay, I want to now put it for archival, or say put another label. So here in this case, our retention, when we define the policy, we said the Radu will be the reviewer first, and Desislava would be the next reviewer. Now Radu has got a mail saying that, okay, there is a disposition review and you have to work on it. He goes into the records management and reviews this disposition. He sees a list of all the dispositions which are pending for his review. He can check on the content and say that, okay, it is good for disposition, and approves the disposal. Now he has confirmed the first level of disposition, but if you remember, we have mentioned two disposition reviews. So once it is disposed from his side, it goes to the second level review. So he has mentioned approve for bulk disposal. Now the second level review as a Desislava, or say the VP records manager. So she gets this disposition pending, and she also can go in detail. For one document, she has selected that, okay, approve for final disposition. Sorry. For remaining thing, she selects and says that apply another label. So what we are doing is relabeling it. So the retention period is over. Now it is good for archiving. So she creates another label, and which is created as archive. This will help the archive person to understand that this has to go now from for offline storage, or say on a storage which can retain it for a little long duration if need be. Now I'm just creating a different label here. A label setting retention is on, and we are classifying it so the person who is archiving can recognize the thing. So we are marking the content required for archiving. Now we have this archivist who is responsible for keeping the data for longer duration. So from the given data, whatever we had, we have reduced the number of document which is to be kept for longer, and we can just export the same and archive it. So she creates a search. Now let me talk about the search. When we were talking about, like, say, data governance model, and when we were saying that, okay, once the data life cycle is over, then we have to also think about the data subject request, or say a legal request for certain data. We have to search the content. This content search is a very powerful thing on Microsoft 365 platform, where you can find the needed content in very few clicks, and your data is available. Now if you also go for advanced e-discovery, that's where you can go search for the data, like, say, club them together, use AI and ML power to reduce the number of unwanted record, because that is the most time consuming and most tiring process when you are finding relevant data. So we have defined our search condition based on retention label, and here I'll be selecting as a archive as a condition. Search is created. Now based on this search, you can say that export for archive. When you create an export, it gives you different options. Like say you can preview the sample and say that okay, it is the one which I was looking for. You can also take action like export report, export result, copy search, delete, rerun the search or edit the search. Why this edit search? Because once you review the sample and you find that okay, it is not meeting all your expectation, you can go and edit it. You can repurpose the search for any other new search, or say if you want to export just the result, it will give you all the file, but you can just export the report as well, which will say that okay, these are the files which are part of this archive. Now if it is individual message, or say you want to copy it to PST file, so those different options. Here I am having only files, so I'll just go and export. So this export is available now, and I can just simply export it. Now you can just install it and copy the key, and you are done. So all these files which were of interest is already there, and you can just put it on the share, or say wherever other cloud service where you are archiving. It is worth mentioning here, Microsoft is uh, in top of Magic Quadrant for data archiving. So coming back to this governance policy from where we started, so we have seen two things. One is started labeling, classification, retention, disposition. I'm going to talk in a while about the protection part. So one part of protection we have seen, where we see that okay, when you are applying protection and you are sharing it outside, it blocks your access, and just ask for a authentication. I'll be talking about protection more, about like how you can apply these protections when you are sharing through emails, you are sharing through endpoint, I mean by copying to USB or printing to a file and all those stuff. So I want to take a pause and I want to see if there are any questions on this. So we'll have around 3 minutes for the question and answer. Sandeep, if you can help me with any question answer there, how to move to Q&A. Right? Any questions on this so far, on classification or retention? If no, I can move forward and talk about classification protection. So if we can have the next poll, please. Okay, so I'm hearing that most of the people are say it is 50-50. Some says that okay, my user classify the data. The second one say the user do not classify. But now I'm changing. 63% saying that they are classifying it. And I also see very few who are saying that we automate the classification. The best part of this automated classification is that you reduce the end user's pain and increase the compliance because you know that the right data is auto labeled. So if a person who is authorized only can lower classify it, that's how you reduce the overall information risk. So I'm just stopping this presentation for a minute and I'll present it again. Okay, hope my screen is visible again. Let me know please once my screen is visible. Okay, hope my screen is visible again and you are able to see it. Hey, Sandeep, Dr. Sriram, if you can confirm if my screen is visible, I'm not able to hear anything.
Yes, your screen is visible.
Thank you so much. So now I'm coming back to the summary or say the next step I'll be starting after this is when we are talking about this overall process again, starting from risk management, where we said that okay, all the risk first you have to understand the risk, control, mitigate, and then accept certain things. We also spoke about information governance, where we spoke about like the starting from creation to use to store, share, and dispose. Now we also spoke about electronic discovery or say export of the data when it is needed for any regulatory or internal inquiry. And then the cyber security reference architecture, because even when there are attacks on the organization, mostly we have seen that the people are behind the data, or say the confidential information of the organization, which they want to gain benefits or monetary benefits out of that content. So these are the things we spoke about. Now, another thing which I want to present here is the Microsoft approach to information protection and governance overall. So it is based on four pillars. One is know your data. When you have the data, first thing is to get a complete inventory of the data. How do I achieve that? Can I achieve it using a manual approach? I know most of you will say no, and that's right, because when we want to know the data, first of all you want to know about the sensitive content spread in your organization. So if you remember from my screen, I was talking about Content Explorer, where you can, once you define your sensitive content, it is visible in Content Explorer, where you can find where all the sensitive content is spread based on the retention level or sensitivity level itself. That is the first place to know. You can also use AIP scanner to scan the content and say that, okay, if the data is not available on cloud platform or say Microsoft platform, and is available on third party, like say file share, or say it is available on another SaaS solution. So we also have, like say you can scan the data. I'm not saying scan the data on SaaS. You can still see that what is there on the third party SaaS platform, and you can label them. The Even on file shares, you can scan the content and label them. Even on online, like say repository of SharePoint, if you have any still available in your on-prem SharePoint, there also you can scan the data. So that is the first thing. So first is know where all your data is. Then you have to apply the protection. That is the second pillar I'm talking about. That how do I, sorry. So I'm talking about protect your data, where we say that, okay, when you want to apply protection, it can be in different form and shape. One is the encryption, that is one method, which is available natively in our O365 platform. But at the same time, when you are sharing it outside your organization, then you still have, like say, the beauty here is that when even when you are collaborating on a protected document, you are still allowed. So that's what is the beautiful thing, because your data is still protected, but you are allowed to like say collaborate on that, and you will still be able to save the content, or say going in wrong hands. Prevent data loss is the third pillar, where we say that, okay, we understand that people can access the content from anywhere now. If somebody downloads it, how do I apply data leakage prevention across O365 platform, or say endpoint, or say on SharePoint, and so on. And then the data governance, which we have in form of, like say, discovery and retention holds. So I was mentioning about these two things. We see Microsoft is already in leaders quadrant for archival solution. At the same time, we are also rated high. If you see here in this we have Microsoft present here for unauthorized, like say for, we are specifically talking about unstructured data security platform, because it is the most painful thing. When we go for structured data, we still have some form or shape, where you know that, okay, only limited people can create, have access and all those things. But unstructured data, it is a set which is spread across, and like say number of people having access, and number of access you are giving outside your organization and to your partner and your support ecosystem is huge. So that's why it is industry recognition, and that helps us to, like say, keep scaling further and to meet more expectations. So here I'm now talking about information protection. So if you remember earlier, I spoke about, like say, information governance. Now I'm talking about Microsoft's approach. Again, this is the same tool and technology. I'm just putting different way to, like say, elaborate on it. But data is at the heart of it. And when we say information protection, first thing is sensitive information type. So if you identify your sensitive information right, you will apply the labels right, and you can apply the protection within those labels. The second one we spoke about, like say if it is third party data ingestion or say on Microsoft platform, uh, the same thing when you consume this information protection, it can be on Windows client, Office apps for iOS, and Office app through browser. Whatever platform you choose to consume this content, we are having this protection across. Then the AIP scanner we spoke about, like say this helps you to identify the content which is there on your on-prem SharePoint repository or on file shares. Through Microsoft Cloud App Security Broker or say CASB solution, you can like say label the content which is there on third-party SaaS platform. And with the same thing when we spoke about Azure Purview, when your data is structured and it is spread across like say SQL or say SQL DB or say Blob, Cosmos DB, or say even an AWS S3 bucket, we have this Azure Purview as a solution which help you to like say once you identify and once you label it, it can be applied even on those structured data. So define it once, use it across. That's what is our philosophy. Now comes the endpoint DLP, which is a very, very important part. When the data is being consumed, now the data is being consumed from any place. The like say people are sitting outside, they are consuming it from their personal device, they are consuming it from corporate network, or say even from a cyber cafe and other stuff. Wherever the device is available, the information is being consumed. And that's why this endpoint DLP plays a very, very important role for all that sensitive data which has to remain within your boundaries or has to be protected. Uh, 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 we also have a solution through a reverse proxy where you can even put a control when the data is being consumed from a like say unmanaged device. You can put policies in place where person will still be able to see the content through browser apps, but they will not be able to download it. But when I'm talking about endpoint DLP, person can download the content. I'm assuming that the person is authorized to download and he or she has downloaded the content and trying to share it through, like say USB. That's where the endpoint comes in picture, where it says that okay, this data it meets sensitive information type and it is protected. Those policies you create and you block the content from being exfiltrated. At the same time, when we all know that okay, gone are the days when people are using the content or say copying the content on USB because they know that is protected and monitored. We see that okay, people are trying to use innovative methods. They can share a like say link and the file is available, they can share it. But mind it, we have this across O365 platform where even if you share a link which is bearing sensitive content and is configured in your policy, we can protect that exfiltration as well. So this is what is our approach to information protection. First, we spoke about information governance. The second one, I'm talking about the protection part. So now I'm just summarizing the thing that how we are like say addressing the challenges through a unified approach. So first is know your data, classification, sensitive information type, custom patterns, trainable classifier, and others. Integrate through a single admin portal from a like say compliance.microsoft.com, and then you can protect your data and structured and unstructured both the ways. Apply data loss prevention, email, SharePoint, OneDrive, TeamChat, Endpoint, Cloud, and through Microsoft. So we have a unique unified approach to discover, classify, and protect, automatically apply policy based action, proactive monitoring to identify the risk, and you can integrate it with your so there are various methods available. You can integrate it with your monitoring tool or say Microsoft Sentinel, and at the same time you can also apply this uh, uh, SDK or say SDK based approach for any application which is homegrown and which like say is not cloud ready yet, but you can still have a SDK integrated in your application. We also have the same capability extended through Power BI, where you can have this similar classification in Power BI and other platforms as well. Now, I will be talking about this overall. Uh, we spoke about information protection and governance, but I also want to highlight about the other, or say, complete compliance management, because we spoke about only one portion of it, and it is not possible to cover everything in such a short span. So that's why I will also be talking about risk management, and this insider risk management is one thing which I. So insider risk management is first thing, and here we talk about two things. One is insider, who is like say sitting inside your organization and is consuming the content. This person is like say doing a day job. Sometimes they ignorantly do it. Sometimes there are audit means like say people who are intentionally do it. They join the organization. We have seen it in some cases where there are like say people planted in the organization to get access to certain data. So when you have this kind of insider risk, the same sensitive information type can also be used to identify the person who is inside your organization based on the behavior and other patterns, to find that okay, if there is any insider risk. The second one I'm talking about is the communication compliance. When we are talking about communication compliance, when we are saying that okay, a person in department A should not talk to department B, we can create such barriers, and then you can protect that. But at the when we talk about communication compliance, we are also talking about foul language being used in the organization, because one of the problem we see is that when people are not respecting others and they are trying to like say uh, put them in such a way that okay, the person is intimidated, or say the person is manhandled, that's where we bring the communication compliance, which is like say again we have a trainable classifier, which is having a module which you can use for configuring the policy. I'll also talk about compliance manager, sorry, data profile and subject request, because the four pillar which we have about information protection, governance, risk management, compliance management, and privacy management. Now, how many of you know? I would request you, though I have not put a poll for this, but how many of you know that okay, India PDP is like say due anytime, and do you have anything in place for your organization for meeting the PDP compliance? I just need yes or no. So a simple question for you is like say, are you ready for PDP compliance? Hey, can we put a quick poll for that if possible, or say do I need to wait? Okay, so if it's not, then I'm good. I'm moving to the next slide. So I'm going to talk about communication compliance now, where we are talking about like say foul language, if those are being used in the organization and to quickly identify and help you to be compliant. that nobody is using any foul language, and uh, to find out that, and like say the offender should be notified and corrected. So we bring a unique proposition here because we are using trainable classifier for identifying such things. And also we have privacy built in. So like say the person who is using that foul language, and when we are bringing this, we are like say by default putting privacy first, because we are not anonymizing the content, and person who is monitoring it will not get to know that who is the offender. Remediation workflow, we know that okay, such behavior need like say intervention, and there would be multiple stakeholders. It may be starting from security, IT, but at the same time HR and legal also need to be involved. So these are the things we have kept in mind, and that's what I'm going to talk in a while now. So when we talk about uh, so here is when we are talking about communication compliance, it is simple. In the same compliance center, we have communication compliance where we can use the existing available policies, or you can create based on your own requirement. So I'm using keyword highlighting, and I have created the new one. A custom policy is being created. I'm monitoring specifically chat because we know that nowadays a lot of collaboration happens on Teams. And when we talk about platforms like say all like say email, that and chat is one place where a lot of informal communication keep happening, and there may be people, while informal mails may not use those kind of language, but chat is one thing which is like say really bothers a lot of people. So, like say, as soon as you get to know, you may keep it for the entire organization. I'm specifically keeping it for few folks, and you can add reviewers who will be the reviewers for this. And like say, the policy can be created for all, and reviewers can be. Now you can put it across the solution areas like say Exchange, Teams, Skype for Business, Yammer, and Bloomberg. But I'm specifically monitoring it for Teams for now, and I want to ensure that nobody, even from outsider, is trying to use the same. So inbound, outbound, any kind of thing is to be scanned. Now I'm using the classifier to see the and I'm going to use the trainable classifier, and this is what I'm selecting within that classifier. So when I have this, there are various options available, and I can select one of them or say all of them. Mind it, it is also capable of using or say finding the pictures or say the adult images. So to take care of that kind of offense as well. So we can have multiple condition and end condition, and I'm just also putting taboo words. And now I create this policy. It is simple, click, 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 and the policy is ready. So by using the trainable classifier, we have created a communication compliance policy. Now you can search, you can go here and offensive messages if you want to see. See, when we are just checking these details, and when you find that okay, there is somebody who is like say the alerts were generated, and these are the things which we need to see. There is a translator available which can translate those things, and then you say that okay, if you convert them, you get that okay, that is a language which is not acceptable. So you can go and search for this, or say you want to give it. And if certain classifiers are not working, we also give you an option to submit your feedback. But all these things where these things means like say this kind of images are being used,
You can go to the entire conversation, because sometimes happens that okay, somebody is kidding, or say the conversation itself is not means while this language is still not acceptable, the person is still in a conversation where both the sides are using it, those can be corrected. But here if I see this user's history, this is found that this person is continuously using this kind of language with multiple people. It is also available at different places, so even the content is found uh, offensive, or say even the images are found. Sometimes there are images which you want to get rid of, you can remove the message from Teams itself, from the console here. So here we go, and here, like say for those offenders, you may want to create a workflow. This can be used through Power Automate or say Power Flow, where you can go and notify to the managers and create a flow in such a way that they can take action, or say can involve more people. So all those things, like say, runs as a flow. And this communication compliance helps you to be compliant to the people who are using abnormal or say offensive languages and trying to intimidate the user or the recipient. I again open it uh, for a question, and if the help team can put a poll here. Hello. Hey, Sandeep, Nikita, if you are around. Okay, so in the meantime, I'm just taking few questions till the time the support team arises. I see there are few questions which are related to licensing. You can ping me one on one, and we can discuss about the license part. So let me move to my to another topic, which is in a while. Any questions so far on compliance, communication compliance? If anyone has any question. Okay, I'm just bringing up my next section, that is on privacy.
So, Smita, Sriram here.
Yeah, hi.
Yes, yes. The questions that they've asked are all answered, right? Yeah.
Right, right. I'm just bringing another section for a minute.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I've given a few more poll questions, which I was just wondering if the support team can help by putting those questions. So after this session, I'll also be publishing this accelerator, or say if you want to deploy these solutions in your environment, that's what will be helpful. Now the last part of this section, which I'm just presenting in a minute. So I just want to demonstrate this data, or say this particular part where we are talking about our unified experience around all those solutions when we are talking about data leakage prevention. And I'm just putting the presentation forward. So here I am starting again on the part where we have, like, say, data classification schema, which is very important when you want to apply any kind of protection across your information. That if you have this information classification schema, I have few collaterals which I can share after this. Is about like, say, finding the information asset, the name, definition, owner, and reviewer, and take owner. It will also talk about the data loss prevention policies, like, say, what could be the data loss prevention policy for this. Like, say, if it is one for PII data, it will be following DLP policy using Microsoft predefined Canada for PII owner, and who will be the person, or say what kind of controls will be applied to that document. So when we have this kind of document, or say information classification schema, it makes the life of the person who is implementing and the person who is handling the information asset much easier. So I'm going to talk specifically about this PII and credit card information. And what we bring is a unified approach to policy creation. So as I mentioned, like, say, we are helping you to define once and use it multiple times. The same thing, like, say, you define once and apply the DLP policy also from a single console to all the workloads. So I'm just defining a policy here in this case. Like, say, create a policy. This policy, when we are creating, it is taking, like, say, sensitive information type from available sensitive information type. Name your policy and mine it here the same policy, like, say, same sensitive information. Since you are worried about the data loss, you can apply the same in Exchange email, SharePoint, OneDrive, Teams, and chat message. So even when the data is being shared in form of just plain chat, like, say, somebody just copy pasting the sensitive content from, like, say, in the chat mail chat body itself, there also you can block. So you can, it is just a simple toggle button, you can turn it on or off and apply it to all the workloads. So I'm just using this Canada PII as a sensitive information type and defining how. And here is the unique approach, because what we are bringing, or say helping you, is to identify, like, say, the volume, but at the same time we are also helping you to define that, okay, if it has got medium confidence level. What it means by that is, like, say, it is when you are confident at data which is being shared, is having like say only the number, or say if it is got some context around this the data, this context make it more confidential, like say make the SOC engineer or say the person who is handling that event that yes, it is indeed a information I was looking for, or say which is not the permissible to go outside. So we have three levels: medium, high, and low. Low means like say while it will have higher rate to detect the data, but at the same time it will bring more false positive. But it is a balanced approach which organization need to take. Like a certain data, even if it is producing false positive, you still want to take a chance and see that okay, what is going on, and after verification only you would like to like say release it. So those are the balance which you need to make. But when we also help you when you are creating the policy, when content matches the policy, you say that okay, I'm allowing to send 10 records, but if it is more than 10, I would like to like say get a notification. Why this kind of limitation? Because there may be certain cases where some person is allowed to send like say a smaller number, or say in case of like say personal information, I can send uh, my own and my family's PAN card number to any organization for a particular business require, or say for a bank, or say any other organization. But at the same time, I'm not allowed to send it across for more than what I like say 10. So even those kind of permission is available, and you can apply that. And once you select that, now there is the policy, like say you educate the user. First thing is educate the user, and the second one is notification to the person, or say the security operation center, or say to any other person responsible, maybe a supervisor of the person. So you can just put a policy in such a way that you can notify the user through policy tips itself, or say you say that okay, I'll just keep it silent and I'll just notify certain people that this kind of behavior is observed. Mostly when people put it in monitoring mode, they just notify the corresponding team so they can fine tune the policy, and then once they are sure that okay, the policy is working as expected, they put it in like say strict mode, or say in control mode. So here goes the first thing which we were talking about. So a person is copying to clipboard, you can we have three options available: block, copy, block, uh, allow, and allow with override. So override is specifically, so audit only is it will allow you to exchange the data, block will block the data, but override will give you option where the person can put justification for any business justification if the person is sharing the information, that will give you. So that is another flexibility we bring on table, because mostly people say that okay, when we are applying DLP and we are like say putting the controls in place, people feel like say their productivity is being impacted. If at all any person feels that okay, he or she is not violating the policy, they can put block with override. We can also protect the content from being exfiltrated to third party, like say in Box, G Suite, Dropbox. So we have certain options to block that content as well. You can just put this policy on, or say put it in test mode, which is equivalent to audit mode, and see how the policy is acting, and then you may turn it on, or say you can just turn it on right away. Another case is when you follow the change process and you want to keep the policies ready. Once the change process is approved, then you can turn it on. You can still have this keep it off option, and you can configure the policy keep it off, and as soon as your policy is, or say your CR process is approved, you will be able to test and turn it on. It is a simple policy creation, and you can just create similar other policies. And even on offensive language we have seen. So the simple process, like say, what I was highlighting here was like say a unified approach to data leakage prevention, where we have like say define your sensitive information. So I'm just like say summarizing, and then I'll put it in. So again, the same thing. We started from this, and I'm just ending it here. So compliance lifecycle management, starting from risk to information governance, and to identify and to find the content as needed, and like say respond to any protection requirement. So if you want to have a complete workshop on this, we have this capability, or say we are conducting half-day workshop for organization. You can reach out to your Microsoft account manager's account team, and we will be more than happy to conduct a half-day workshop for covering all these aspects. And also we have special accelerators to help you in your compliance journey. So thank you. Have a journey which helps you to be compliant and be compliant to the organization and regulators. Thanks everyone.
Thank you very much, Smita, for that wonderful session. Very enlightening. Any more questions? So I guess there are no more questions, and you do have links to resources. I hope you
Right.
took good notes of the audience, took good note of all that was presented on this very important topic. And actually, certainly you'll hear from the ecosystem a lot more in the coming months and years, in the coming time. So it's best to be prepared, thoroughly prepared, not only from the compliance point of view, but also from the security and safety point of view. In the sense, you don't want with the increasing scale and sophistication of attacks that are happening, so best to be prepared. So with that, we come to the close of this session. I hope you have the contact details of the relevant people should you choose to reach out to them for further information. And Smita, where can people find more information on this? Have you posted the resources link?
Okay, I'll share that. One second.
Yeah, probably you can put it in the chat box.
Sure, I'll do that.
Yeah, and also any contact details of any person that they wish to reach out to.
Sure, I'll do that. I'll just share that detail in the chat box.
Yes. So very good session. Thank you very much, Smita. On behalf of DSCI, thank you all. And please do enjoy the rest of the enlightening sessions in AISS for the remaining 3 days. They started off with a real bang. And please, I hope you will continue to retain your interest. And there are so many exciting sessions for everyone, no matter what your interest is, cloud security or whether it's IoT, endpoint, network, or privacy. There is something in it for everyone, and you'll get to hear from the business leaders. Also, feel free to reach out should you have any questions. With that, we can close the session.
Thank you everyone for
Thank
joining.
you.
Thanks, Dr. Sriram, for moderating this.
Yes,
Thank you so
thank you very much, Smita and the Microsoft team.